This week's parsha is Parsha Yitro, a monumental parsha, as all parshas are, but this one presents Matan Torah. So obviously people feel very connected to it because it has the Aser HaDibrot, commonly referred to as the Ten Commandments. So something special going on. And we have a couple of questions that need to be resolved. The first one and the most obvious one is, given that this is the parsha of Matan Torah, why isn't it called Parshat Matan Torah? And even more strangely, why is it called Parshat Yitro? I mean, Yitro is a very special person. We learn a lot from him. And he is, of course, the father-in-law of Moshe Rabbeinu. But to name the parsha where the Jews received the Torah is such an epic, monumental event, and we name it after Yitro, why? That seems bizarre. That's question one. Question two. So there are different understandings of this. There are arguments. For example, the Ramban and Nachmanides, I believe, actually says that this week's parsha is, yes, written in chronological order. Rashi disagrees. In chapter 18, verse 13, the second Aliyah, we see the following verse. It was on the next day that Moses sat to judge the people. So Rashi comments on Vayhi Macharat, the next day of what? So there Rashi says, look, this week's parsha is not written in chronological order. Really what happened was there was Matan Torah, the Jews received the Torah, and then afterwards this episode of Yitro came, and Yitro suggested to Moshe like how to go about judging the nation. So, given that this isn't in chronological order, why is it not in chronological order? What's so important here? And to this, I heard this this was actually one of the very first shiurim I heard in yeshiva. I heard it from my Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Gershenfeld. And he says the following. In answer to these two questions, again, why is it called Parshat Yitro? Wouldn't Parshat Matan Torah be more appropriate? And then two, why is it not in chronological order? So he gives a few answers to this. Answer one, because the Torah is such a monumental, awesome event. It is defining for the Jewish people. We need a preamble to this. We need something to prepare ourselves for this amazing event. And Yitro presents this lesson. And what does that mean? That given that Matan Torah means that the Jews are receiving the Torah, you could have this incorrect notion that we are meant to be passive participants, right? Passive recipients. We just kind of sit there, we have the Torah lobbed at us, and we just accept, and we say, okay, great. Yitro teaches us something different. Because Yitro came in, and he actually used his own life wisdom to give Moshe advice, and he actually added a parsha into the Torah because of this. He added something into the Torah because he used his own personality and infused it into the Torah. He made it better. He made the Torah better by using his own personality and putting it into the Torah. And that's something that we're meant to do. We're meant to use our life experiences, our wisdom, right, our good looks, our good humor, everything that we have essentially, and we're supposed to put it into the Torah so we can make the Torah better. And so we're meant to be active here and not just be passive recipients. And an important side note, Rav Bernstein, who I've quoted repeatedly, once said this to a friend of mine, that there are two dangers, especially with Baalei Tshuva, when it comes to becoming closer to the Torah. And it's the following, that sometimes people have personalities, and that personality can clash with what the Torah demands. That's a very difficult struggle. Now, some people resolve this by saying, well, hey, look, this is how I am, this is my personality, so the Torah says this, well, okay, but I'm going to do what my personality says. And that's wrong. You're meant to take the Torah and to adapt your personality to the Torah's requirements and ideals. So it's wrong to assert your personality over the Torah. But there's a second danger. That is to say that some people do have personalities, and it conflicts with the Torah. And so what they do is they just kind of enmesh and become steamrolled and just allow the Torah to shape who they are, and they lose their personality. And that too is wrong. Because the point of the Torah is to actually flesh out your personality fully, to give it full expression, and so it isn't hindered by anything. But in doing so, you should be expressing your personality. So you see that the proper way to do it is to take your personality and to add it into the Torah. And that's the way to go about things. And that's the first lesson we learn from Yitro. So what's the second lesson? That there's a danger to this. That by infusing yourself into the Torah, you can say, well, look, I have the Torah, other people don't have the Torah, and therefore you can become a racist. And the answer to that is that that's wrong. You should not become a racist. You are a light unto the nations. And moreover, we're not traditionalists either. Jews don't do Torah in the way that, say, just to take a stereotype, Italians do pasta or pizza. That's not the way it's about. We don't just do it because, well, I guess my fathers did it. We do it because it's the right thing to do, because we're meant to serve as a light unto the nations. And that's something we learn from Yitro, that he changed his whole life. And this leads us into the third point. That is to say, the Midrash tells us that this week's parsha does not begin with Yitro, strictly speaking. It begins with a different word. What is that word? Vayishma. And he heard. And he listened. Because Jews are meant to listen. Jews like to talk. We also like to think. That's very important. We also need to learn how to listen to other people. And that's something that we actually learned from Yitro, because Yitro came from Midian. He was a high priest there. He was a very well-respected individual there. And even so, when he heard the Torah's call, when he heard its message, he heeded it. And he abandoned his whole life. He changed his whole life around in order to pursue that which was true. And that's something that is very important to learn before we receive the Torah. That's an important lesson. So that is lesson 3. What's lesson number 4? Well, guess what just happened right before this? That is to say, at the end of Parshat Beshalach, we encountered Amalek. Now, Amalek are not very good people, and therefore the Jews could think, well, look at what these Amalekites did to us. They're just non-Jews. Non-Jews are evil, and we don't like them, because that's the kind of thing that non-Jews do. And so the way we introduced the Parsha of Matan Torah is by Yitro. Yitro also wasn't Jewish. So he went from the worst found in Amalek to the best found in non-Jews to learn that non-Jews are not evil. They could be exceptionally good people. And that's a very important lesson to learn before we receive the Torah. And now finally, the 5th lesson we learn is that Moshe can't save the Israelites by himself. He needs help from other people. And it's help that he receives from Yitro. And keep in mind, according to Rashi, this is after Matan Torah. Moshe heard the word of God on his own, and he received the Torah and is now disseminating it to Jews. And even so, despite the fact that he has lessons directly heard from God, he still listens to other people and he takes their advice. And with these 5 lessons, we are now ready for Matan Torah. Shabbat Shalom.